gonna do? I can't tell you, but I shock it too. Say it's your game. Do what you wanna do now.
Gnome Dance Party. I love that song. And this time, because I'm a stupid idiot, I got to hear it twice. Hello, welcome to the Rockstar Roadie podcast. My name is Dan ONeil, or for those who know me on the road, Borga. Today's guest is a former roadie with who is I probably say this wrong because I don't know half the industry people. A director, a writer, a producer of multiple things, but he turned me on to his film called Roadie Film. And I normally don't watch those, and I'll get into that with TJ why, but I watched his. So if you would please welcome my first guest. What the fuck's wrong with me? My only guest today, Mr. TJ Hoffman. All right, enough of that shit. So, what's up, brother?
How are you, sir?
You know, I cannot complain. I'm alive. It's I won the day just by waking up, so I'll take it. I'll take it as a win.
Yeah, man. When we're on this side of the grass, it's a good thing, right?
Right. I'll take it. As long as I'm above it, I don't give a shit. Or either that or just burn me and sprinkle me over Hooters. I don't care. Hooters is the legal strip club. Anyway, so the history behind TJ, and I'm 90% sure I knew him growing up from the club circuit in Jersey. He had sent me a picture earlier, which I'll find it and post here. But he sent me a picture earlier, and it's of a band that I did one of my first shows with. Here we go. There we go. Law and Order. God dang. We was young, dude.
Yeah, I had hair and no gut.
Yeah, I have hair and a gut.
Yeah, I was in a strip club in North Brunswick, and I was wearing my American Angel T-shirt. That's actually in the DJ booth, and they were busting my balls about American Angel, and then I was busting their balls, and then I was like, all right, listen, we got to take a picture. This is great that you're here, because usually I would see them either in the recording studio, or I'd go see them in a show, or we'd cross paths, with other clubs. So it was just fun to see them outside at their guitars and
right.
And
well, you had reminded me that the guy to your left, if I'm facing, that's Rob, the drummer.
Correct.
And then, if I remember correctly, the guy to your right is Shane, the bass player.
Correct.
And I don't remember. That's the guitar player. I don't remember his name.
Me neither.
I want to say it was Phil, but I could be wrong. The singer or the guitar player's name was Phil. They were a great bunch of guys, and I was green as can be. I was like 16 freaking years old. But anyway, so our history goes back to the Jersey club days. And definitely we ran past, I'm sure of that. But you had reached out to me, and I normally don't watch roadie films, and here's why. I fucking hate them. Because 90% of the ones that I have seen are scripted and bullshit. Especially TV shows. Like I watched that Warped Roadies, and I wanted to reach through the screen and smack every one of them, because that's not roadie. That you scripted that crap. It don't run like that. It nothing. And so it's just like watching some of those shows. And I think there was a show on Showtime or something called Roadies, and I really wanted to stab those people, with a passion.
Cameron Crowe did that, and it was right about the same time that I was shopping, pre-COVID, when I was shopping this film. We put together some trailers, and it was about the same time. And when this was, Cameron Crowe released, the news that he was going to do this movie, I was like, this is perfect timing, because if it's great, it's going to get a lot of traction, and hopefully my movie and / series, because this movie was made to launch as a pilot episode for a recurring actual reality series, and right. Just music and TV banged heads, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it was unfortunately it didn't go over well because of Hollywood dipped their fingers in shit. Mm-hmm. And what I tried to do is in the very beginning was be like this Michael Moore type of guy, this guy on a search, and why people want to do this job. It's thankless. It's tiresome. It ruins families, blah, blah, blah. And it just took a couple different directions. And, I got the people in the movie that I did, because I'm a music guy making a film, not a film guy making a film about music.
Right.
So I had the trust of all my friends and people that I've toured with in the bands, and I got vouched for that I wasn't a scumbag and making this MTV type of smutty doc, which I could have done easily and sold out.
Oh yeah.
But we wouldn't
Easy.
be talking if I did.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah, so listen, the film took, you know, many different turns, and the more of the old footage that I was using with my editor as using as placeholders, because I had some good lines and I had some good scenes, but I wanted to really bring in other people. As you saw in the film, I didn't want to make it about me, so we would just insert my old footage to make it, you know, just as a placeholder, and then we'll get somebody really important and a real roadie to say that, and then it'll make sense. And then it turned into my dark side of drinking and drugging, and that, at the time, that was the best film I could make. After 10 years, I just threw in the towel and said, "All right, this is it." And it got some pretty good reviews out in LA with my movie friends, and that's it.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Well, I mean, so the night you sent it to me, I'm like, oh, God, I gotta watch another Roadie movie, and I started watching it, and literally, you had me from the get-go. Not only because it's my hand in there putting guitar picks on, and I had no clue this was even filmed. I'm like, that's my hand. I know my hand. And I'm putting down the guitar picks for Rob Thomas, you know, on my little box there for him.
Oh.
And then I saw Bobo was in it. And I'm like, all right, well, I gotta watch this whole thing. And I was like, it brought up a lot of good memories for me, especially from home. Cause you know, you're right. It is a thankless job. It is pain in the ass. It's grueling. But at the same time, it's like it creates amazing memories, you know. And like, and I had a guest on yesterday, and I was telling her, you know, it's music does something to people, and it may just be some songs that get them wound up or whatever. Music invokes emotion, and for me, it's like when I go back and listen to Trickster, people go, "Trickster, that's an '80s hair band." Yeah, but I was there. I was there when they were recording it. You know, we toured. We were a band of misfit brothers that just to this day are still friends. And you know, you hear the music and you go, man, I remember that arena. Man, I remember that after party. Man, I remember us on the bus. You know, you remember all of that stuff, and it just brings back a flood of good emotions because that was fun, carefree times, especially nowadays. And by the way, I didn't do my spiel in the beginning of this. So beg pardon here. I have to do it, unfortunately, or else I can get sued, and I really ain't got no money. So just for the record here, folks, legal reasons, as my lawyers tell me to tell you, mine or my guests' opinions or thoughts or processes or solutions to our problems were that of our own. Please do not take them to heart. We are not legal, excuse me, I burped, legal therapists, but we have seen therapists. So we kind of know what we're doing when it comes to us. And then the second part of the podcast is, one, we don't talk politics. Two, we don't talk religion. There we go. Problem solved. Now I can't get sued, hopefully. But anyway, so yeah, I think, you know, like watching your film, the initial part of me was like, oh, here we go, another one. And then literally from the get-go, I was stuck. And I watched the whole thing that night, and I was like, all right, that was more along the lines of what I felt how we should be represented, not the Hollywood version of being represented. And I'm like, you know what? I got to have TJ on. So here you are.
Yeah, it was hard. I tried. I did not want to be that guy. Listen, I'm not a super tech, right? I'm not one of these lifers. I've been very blessed and fortunate to do this, you know, part-time for a long time, and got to travel the world and got paid and everything from the European festivals in Europe to arena rock. So I covered all the bases, and it was amazing, but it was really hard to do this and not piss off at least one person in the business, you know? So I edited a lot. I showed people their interviews, and I can mention some names. I'll do it off air, that because they're mutual friends of ours that just didn't want to be part of this film after they saw the trailers and my drinking and drugging, and they just didn't know where it was going to go, and they respectfully declined. And I was like, oh, I respect it. Okay,
Yeah.
you're good, man. I'm trying the best I can, and I'm a no bullshit black and white guy. And if you don't like the way this is going, we're good.
Yeah,
But
100%.
it's trying. It's a trying business because you have those people that don't, they really don't want to be put in the spotlight. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. And then you have other people that are a little bit of an egomaniac. They say, "Look at me, film me, more me."
Yeah. Well, we're kind of like the WWE in the fact that we don't break kayfabe, meaning we don't want people to see what really goes on behind the scenes. Well, that was then because you really didn't need to see what was going on behind the scenes. But nowadays, it's nothing. The last 15 years has changed dramatically. Back in the day, I used to go to bed with a bottle of booze and whatever pill I can get my hands on. Now I go to bed with ibuprofen and some Pepsid AC, and I get under my heating blanket in my bunk.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just the reality. Sure, yeah. Was it? Listen, were some tours debauchery? 100%. Were some tours not? 100%. You just never knew what you were going to get till you were on that tour. And then you chose to partake, or you chose not to partake. Our lifestyle is not a secret, but what you did was you showed it in its reality, which, and you and I talked before we started this thing. The reality is pretty simple. Is people need to see reality. This sugarcoating of stuff or coddling or I antiquated to my kids growing up now is then when I had them versus to now is like go in the corner and have a timeout. What good is that doing? We're not doing anybody any good by hiding anything. Do you have to be so harsh? No. Should you be? To some people, yeah, because they're just as dumb as a box of hair, So, but anyway, so growing up in the scene on our coast, kind of give me the layout of obviously American Angel, which I know Rocco and the boys, and we used to play shows with them all the time, especially at Studio One. For the love of God, that's where I know you and I have probably crossed paths on that stupid stage at Studio One somewhere.
Yeah.
Or in the dressing room, because I know the Trickster Boys and American Angel, we hung out a lot with the American Angel boys. So, and it was always a good time. I still have my American Angel CD and stuff like that. I listen to them. I got them on Spotify. I talked to some of the guys, who, and please, because my memory isn't as good as it used to be, which is an understatement, who passed away
From American Angel?
Yeah.
None of the original members or Mr. Thuman, the drummer.
I thought someone just passed away. Maybe it was an American Angel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Facebook is confusing.
I still talk to most of those guys all the time.
But Rocco was all. I loved Rocco. Holy shit.
Yeah, listen, another talent. I mean, there was a lot in that scene. I mean, I would love to go back. If I had some money, I would go back and make a whole movie about the 80s scene in New Jersey.
It's already, there's one being made. I'm flying to Jersey in January to do an interview for it.
Cool. I mean, that's great. It's so underrated, some of the music that should be out there. And, I still follow Xenon, and they're in the studio now doing something.
Wow.
Just a talented bunch of people in this area that just never seem to get past, that level.
Yeah, there was always that hump that they couldn't pass.
Yeah.
I remember there was a band, I want to say it was Tough.
Yeah.
The bass player, I forgot his name. He had the really long hair, always played with his shirt off, always had a Fender bass. They were going great. And then all of a sudden he was gone. And then I see him pop up on MTV in Lita Ford's video with her. So he's in Lita Ford's video. But a lot of those guys were either getting taken by other bands, or they couldn't break that there was that invisible barrier that they just couldn't. They were doing great in the clubs. The numbers were good, but they couldn't. And the music was definitely there. I mean, I was in Runaway, and that was doing great. And I just got fed up with it. And then there was Cleavage and Tough and Xenon and American Angel. And I mean, I lost track of the amount of bands.
Oh, tons
that were good.
Tons. It's funny. I was going through some old bins and road cases, which I periodically do. And I got to have about 150, 200 copies of the East Coast Rocker from back in the day.
Oh my God. I remember that.
I always had, I don't know how and why I did it. but I always had an 8mm camera. And I was following, you know, when I started to work for American Angel and just the scene and what was going on with music and trying to figure out this whole thing in my head, besides being just a knucklehead with an 8-pack, just lifting up, you know, road cases and Marshall stacks up 3 flights of stairs to Studio One.
Oh God.
I saved every ad that was in the East Coast Rocker or, you know, later the Aquarian, and all the ads that were put on, the posters and the flyers. You know, back in the day where you had to go with flyers and staple them on record stores, the Record Center in East Brunswick and Vintage Vinyl. You wanted people to go to your show, you had to promote that way. And
everything was boots on the ground.
Yeah. It's
I mean, we had so many great clubs too. I mean, you know, you go down the list of L'Amour's East, L'Amour's West, Billy O's Staten Island. You can go to China Club, Cat Club, what was the Limelight, which was one of my favorites to play. Then you had Studio One, Club Benet. You know, the list went on and on. We had great bands, great clubs, and then all of a sudden one day it just all disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just all gone.
They all sold out. And the Cricket Club in Irvington, that building is still there.
Yeah.
The sign is still there. And I go back there, I pass the parkway, I get goosebumps. Just great times. And you know, people don't understand, this is pre-internet, pre-cell phone. So you just rolled into places with MapQuest. If you got to advance the show, whether you had a trailer or a van, and that was a bonus if you got to talk to somebody to actually advance the show. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just winging it. You know, Club Benet was, you know, okay, load in at 12. Jack Lowry from Strike was the sound guy. He's getting there at 4. You can get in at 5. And then it was, you want chicken or fish for dinner. And then it was, they had a TV in the coat closet. So you were drinking beers, watching the Ranger games on Channel 9 with the antennas. And there was nothing to do. There was no bullshit with the cell phones. So you got a case of beer in the back and you hung out and you were sociable and you interacted with the crowd. And we were knucklehead roadies and we were having fun on the side of the stage and we're dancing and shuffling. And, you know, my brothers were involved with me. And it was just such a good time for music to bind people. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just, it was an amazing time of my life. And I'm so grateful I got to expose to that.
Yeah. Now, so obviously, you know, part of this podcast, I split it between, you know, roadie stories and mental health issues. And I do like to try and help keep people to understand that everybody from all walks of life, from all religions, from all working jobs, whatever they do, occupations, whatever you want to call it, all have issues, you know, and then our issues, in my opinion, are a little different. And it's because, yes, we choose what we do, but at the same time, we go into this not knowing the toll it's going to take on our families, on our own mental health, being away from those families or starting families and then touring. You know, there was a period of time where I can remember we were going from tour to tour to tour. I think maybe in 3 years, I was home a total of like maybe a month. You know, and then that even though I wasn't married at the time, I was still young, it still wears you down. What issues, if any, but you probably have, I'm sure you have, what issues, even from back then, did you see going on with crew people?
So it didn't hit me till later. You know, listen, I was at Studio One working for American Angel. I was about 19, 20. I had the fake ID. I was in Studio One. I was on the second floor where the bar was, doing the drinking and the drugging and all that stuff for years. It didn't really hit me until I was working for Skid Row and we were the opening slot on the Kiss tour in 2000 with the original lineup. Mm-hmm. And it was just a 3-month thing. A 3-month scheduled stint. We didn't know if we were going to get extended. They're going to bring other bands on. We didn't know, but I'm in, like touring Arena Rock with Kiss, with Skid Row guys. I'm in.
Hell yeah.
And it got extended. So Doc McGee was obviously Kiss's manager, and then they were Skid Row's manager. And we were like we were the bad boys. We were the redheaded stepchild on the whole tour. But because of Doc, we got away with a lot of shit. And we just, they kept us on. We didn't make a lot of money, but we were having fun. Just it was great. It was great. I mean, that was an amazing thing. But as that tour went from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, you're sleeping every night moving. And fortunately for me, I was single. I was not married at the time. And it didn't affect my home life so much. But what it did affect was my pattern with my demons, because I could get as drunk and drugged up as I wanted to after the show. And I just had to walk 100 feet to a bus and pass out. There was no other responsibilities of getting in a car, calling an Uber, getting home from a bar. There was none of that like there was in the 80s. And that's when I started to see my pattern evolving to something that could be really out of control when I get home.
Right.
And, thank God now, I just celebrated 19 years clean and sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's part of my story. And I'm not embarrassed at all about how I was a knucklehead back in the day.
Neither am I.
I survived it. I survived drinking and drugging on the road pre-internet, and there was nothing to do but have a keg party and party backstage. And then I've evolved into touring Europe, where there was no liquor backstage, but there was more AA meetings.
Right.
And you kind of got to network with who's sober on what band and what crew, and you can meet up with them in that, the infinite line of tour buses at a festival, where you know that you're in a safe place to go and just spend an hour with somebody and dump and talk shit about what's going on the road and all of that. And it became another side of the touring family that I adopted versus that family when I was drinking and drugging,
Right.
I had those families too. It was great. All my New York friends, we would meet up in the middle of Holland at a festival. It was like New York. It was like, this is it. We're all here. It's like CBGB's all over again.
Nice.
Party was on.
But what other, as you, obviously you knew other road crew guys, and, I know depression is very rampant in our industry. It is very rampant. I mean, I'm not going to go into it because I've gone into it in so many podcasts. I'm probably going to lose followers if I keep talking about it, but I've dealt with it. I still to this day deal with it, but that's just it. I deal with it. I don't suffer from it. And, and I feel bad for people who suffer with it, because my dealing with it is just brutal. And then people who suffer from it 24/7, I feel really bad for them, because getting out of your own head is very hard to do, especially in today's climate in our country. And, a lot of people are worried about so many different things, right down to where their next meal is going to come from. And it sucks to have to worry about that. But, for roadies, I see, especially, I talk about this a lot because it bewilders me, because you and I know there's good money to be made on the road. And, we know we can survive, if you do it right. You don't have to always tour. I figured out my formula for being able to take time off, and that's just saving up. But I see a lot of these guys who I think are afraid to come off the road. They're afraid to face reality. So they're always, there are 4 weeks left in their tour. They're out putting the word out. I'm available. I'm available. It's like, okay, it's one of two things. One, you're afraid to come off the road because then you're faced with what's reality in front of you, or you blew all the money you made on tour and you have to stay on tour just to make more money so you can pay your bills. And that concerns me with not everybody. I know some guys who do it, and I know the reasons they do it, and they've told me why they do it, and I respect it and understand it. But the other ones, it concerns me that there's a bigger issue at heart, that they have to do that because if you're afraid to go home and settle into, even for a month, a normal life, that worries me. That's kind of the writing on the wall for some other shit. And let's let's be real. I mean, you and I know you have to have, I know I have lost a lot, and that's not even an exaggeration. That's an understatement. I've lost a lot of friends, touring brothers, and, a couple sisters, and it really sucks, because I feel those issues that they had could have been at least helped if you pick up the phone, if you talk to somebody, get some help. I was the biggest component, being an Irish Italian from Northern Jersey, to not speak about my problems, and, my brother, not by blood, but my brother, who's the bass player for Trickster, and me had a happenstance meeting at, dinner at the Rainbow in LA during the pandemic. And I told him what I was going through. And he just looked at me and said, it's time for you. You need to see a therapist, and I finally broke down and did it and was kind of against it to begin with. There's a whole story there, but she finally got through to me. And, I'm back to the arrogant asshole I was growing up. So I'm good with that. But, and it's not conceited, it's not arrogant. It's just I'm sure of myself, and I know what I want in life, and I know how I want to get it. And I'm not going to take less than. But I think a lot of the friends I've lost, or some of the friends you've lost, or people in general who decide to make that decision to pass on, if they reach out, I think it would help them a little bit. But again, we're the fear of most men is we don't want to reach out because we seem weak. But what I see as weak is you taking the other path and taking your own life. That's how I see it as weak, because I'm not going to get into religion, but I don't believe in any of that shit. But the reality is, if you're taking that way out, you're taking the coward's way out. The strong man's way out is to admit you need help. Just like when you were drinking or doing drugs. At some point in time, you did it. And I know for a fact I did it. I said, I need help. What that help was, I don't remember. I just don't remember. But you asked for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I masked a lot of my depression and anxiety and everything. And I don't want to say I was dealing with a lot of stuff about the road. I think the road helped me get through a lot of stuff. If there was some dark times, my alcoholism, definitely masked a lot of that. And I would I'll deal with it tomorrow. But I was never afraid to ask for help, whether it was professionally or personally. I do remember, back in the day, and early 2000s, where, I was afraid I was supposed to be a tough guy, right? I worked for Agnostic Front, and there's New York hardcore and all this stuff, and you're, man, tattoos, and then after a while, it's like, that doesn't mean shit anymore. Like, this is not good. And I would hear stories about my friends that would almost die from OD, and then some guys that did die from OD, overdosing, and then the suicide, and all that person needed. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up over this, but
I understand it completely. Please, be you.
Call. Pick up the phone and talk to somebody. If you don't want to see vulnerable with somebody you don't know who's a therapist or anything on the professional side, man, call your bro. The same guy that you would call to say, hey, let's go grab a beer at the local gin mill. Call that guy and say, hey, I'm going through some shit. Like, can you help me? I need to talk this out loud. Yeah. And 90% of the time, talking things out and just getting it off your chest and being verbal solves a lot of problems. You feel
it really does. I couldn't agree more, Brem. It
rips me apart to hear about people that I've lost that I think really could have still been with us if they just, picked up the phone and had a bro, and they knew that people were there for them. And right. I still, since COVID, there's about a dozen or two people, not that worry me, but that are close to me, that I'll send them a quick text every once in a while, or, hey, a bro check. How you doing? You good? Everything good? Like, how's your life? Like, I'm here. Just so you know, we haven't seen each other in a year because of geographical locations or whatever, but I'm here for you, man. I love you. You're my brother, and I'm always here. Yeah. And I think people need to hear that more.
I agree 100%. And what's funny is when I was married to my first wife, I kind of not intentionally, and this goes to the Jersey mentality, but I kind of intentionally stopped talking to two of my best friends since high school, not even high school, middle school, who we're still friends with today. They were best men at both my weddings. One of them, my PJ, is my son's godfather. I stopped talking to him, and I stopped talking to him not because of them, but because of my ex. And when I made the decision to get a divorce, the first person I called was them. And it was literally no joke. And this is where the Jersey mentality comes in. Hey, I'm sorry. And then literally we picked up like we never stopped talking.
That's
And
great.
and like that, I let it all out. I mean, I wasn't in that mental state of wanting to take my own life at that point yet. I did at a later point get to that point. But it was just like and it was like we never stepped apart. It was we picked up right where we left off. We just picked up much older and with kids. So I mean, as far as touring nowadays, it's gotten better in my opinion. I know you don't tour anymore, but touring nowadays has gotten better where people do kind of, even in the arena or whatever, we'll kind of just step to the side and we'll just talk, even if it's a casual conversation. And, I think you and I think any human being knows when another person needs to just kind of talk and you kind of read the room, so to speak. And I've had friends out on tour with me who just start talking and I just let them talk until they stop or until they're looking for an answer. I let them talk because I know I have had to do that to people. And when I'm done with it, you're right. It does not necessarily solve the problem, but it makes you feel better. And I think that's a lot nowadays of what people need to start learning to do is just to shut their mouths and listen. People cry for help in different ways, you know? So growing up back home, obviously you talk about Agnostic Front, I worked for Overkill and Biohazard back home and all that shit, doing all the metal, all the metal stuff. But what was some of your favorite clubs in our tri-state to play?
Wow. Geez. I mean, there was Birch Hill stands out.
Yes.
Right? And it was
still there, by the way.
Well, kind of. It's condos and houses, but
oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Starland Ballroom. They're still there.
Oh yeah, Hunka Bunka. But Birch Hill Art Stock, when there was a couple of years where he had the outside pool open, and way in the back were softball fields, and WSOU 89.5 would
Gabe
do
Gramaska.
Yeah, listen. There's so many great DJs in that era. But we got away with a lot of shit. And Artstock loved American Angel, and we would go on stage 11 o'clock to let's call it 10:30 to 12, and at 12 o'clock the Chippendale male strippers came on in the club. We were sharing the dressing room after. So we got to be close with them guys. So it was like your complete perfect mix of alcohol, drugs, rock and roll, and women. Those were the most memorable years as far as Jersey goes. When I moved on and started working for MOD and Agnostic Front, and those other guys, then all the New York City bands came into play, venues.
Yeah.
So, CBs,
the Ritz, Cat Club, CBGBs.
Yeah, Limelight. I mean, God, Limelight's for sale, and I'm like, I want to buy the Limelight.
Dude, I heard it was. I did the same shit when I heard it was up for sale. I'm like, I need that place. It was the best.
Yeah. The Bank. Remember the Bank in New York City? That was a couple of years it was there. It was a very small club. It was an old bank, but beautiful, cool building. Yet we bounced around and here I am, this knucklehead, just being a roadie, plugging shit in and getting by. And I had a van, so I was a little bit more valuable than the other guy.
Yeah, you were. You were
so
the man.
I'll pick up all the drum cases and the stacks and all that stuff, the 4x12s. But I was drinking and driving like a knucklehead, But listen, those late 80s, early 90s days between World Stage and Nanuet, New York, all the way down to Stone Pony and Hammerjacks in Baltimore.
I haven't heard World Stage in a long time.
That corridor was great times. And
it was.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I learned a lot. I mean, it really opened my eyes coming out of the recording studio and going to live music and experiencing different venues and different load-ins and stages.
Right.
And as I was drinking a lot, but I was still paying attention. I was still that responsible guy that did my job.
Right.
And I earned $50 to show up and then $50 for the van. So I made $100 for the night, got to hear some great music and
free booze.
Yeah.
And
So
that old thing about Roadie's free beer and pizza is real, folks.
man, if
It
you
is
got
real.
that, if you got that, you
Yeah,
know,
that's true. That's true.
but yeah, it was great stuff. And we talked up earlier about how the road is different today. And in 2000, when I was with Skid Row on the Kiss tour, they had every arena Kiss had a massage room available for you and I listen, I didn't get any of it, but it was really for your mental health, to get a massage and to calm your mind, right?
Right.
You just need an hour. Then they also had available if you wanted to get a shot of B12, right? So there was that early stage of those guys looking out for the people on tour. Nowadays, between the mental health issues and the drug and alcohol issues that face the world, there's a lot more avenues available to working industry professionals than there wasn't back in the day. So if we got pizza and beer, that was a win. If we got a cold shower, that was a win for me in Europe.
Oh yeah.
A little shower, so I'd have to shower at truck stops on the Autobahn.
Yep.
So you count your blessings when you can get them. And I would go see my friends on these big tours today and go backstage and go to hospitality and catering. And yeah, it's all there. But they also have other stuff available that if you're going through a hard time, there's resources for you in that toolbox to open up the toolbox and get the help you need or get stuff off your chest so you can function as a better roadie for the band and the peers you work with. Because if you're a rigger and you're going through a bad time and your head is not where it's supposed to be, you're not only endangering your life, but your other riggers that are with you,
Well, the riggers and the people underneath the stuff that you're rigging. Let's be clear. If it wasn't for, listen, if you don't have good riggers, you're 50-50 chancing it of freaking something going down.
Right.
And I rather have good riggers than good anything else.
Right. Right. And that all goes to to that guy that's in the air. And you got a guy like Bobo who's marking points on the stage and he's doing his job. There's so many people, that ripple effect that would leave your head that could really do a lot of damage on the tour.
100%.
And I do it all the time. I'm so blessed that I was part of that pre-internet area of being a touring roadie, because I was a tech, but let's be for real. It was some tube amps and some maybe ADA programming. It was nothing like it is today. And to see how the industry evolved and went from a knuckle dragging gorilla like myself, knucklehead, to seeing where these guys are today with the amount of talent that a guitar tech has.
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
mean,
it
now
all.
it's programming. I mean, it's like Fractal and Kempers and all this shit. You got to be able to program now. It's not just plugging it in anymore. And turning the knob. You
can't play a couple of chords, some hardcore chords, and get away with sound check.
Exactly.
So I was blessed to see it all and experience it all and toured with some amazing technicians that I've learned so much from. And then of course the guys in the 80s at Studio One that would help me lug up these Marshall stacks up 3 flights of stairs.
Oh yeah, I remember going up those stairs with Marshalls and Ampegs and having like a daisy chain of 5 guys with a Marshall between each of us.
Yeah, one time I went to the pipeline. Remember the pipeline down the street?
Oh my God!
So I went to the pipeline because oh man, Souls at Zero. They used to be called Wrathchild America. Souls at Zero was playing. And I just saw them at Foundations Forum in LA in 1992, became friends with one of the roadies. I actually ran down the street to see if I could borrow a couple of roadies for a couple of 6-packs to help me with the Studio One steps,
Yeah, because, Pete Tertia never always gave us guys.
Yeah. I guess you had a better rider than we did.
No, I'm saying Tertia would like screw everybody with hands for the in.
Yeah.
Unless you were a national act. Unless you were a big enough national act making him money, he would, but whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. Pete Tertia actually managed American Angel for a short time.
I remember it.
Before Fernando took over.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in forever.
Fernando Fazzari, I think his name was.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. So damn, it was just good times, man. Good times, good people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I miss it. Touring, touring has changed. You're right. I mean, now you have to be a little bit smarter than turning knobs. And right down to even just drums and stuff. Keyboard teching, you got to be able to program on the fly. With these fractal rigs and Kemper rigs, you got to be able to program on the fly. I got a whole fractal rig right here that I'm always programming. Just to keep stuff updated. But yeah, it's a whole new world. I mean, I still build analog rigs, but I'm getting more requests nowadays for building digital rigs, which on a builder end is simpler. But analog rigs to me are just, they're more fun to build because they're more intensive of how things are going to work.
Yeah.
So man, I've been trying to have more. I mean, technically you're a roadie, but you're not anymore. I've been trying to have more of that on the show because I believe everything could be expanded outside of what we do, but still keeping the premise of what we do. So I keep it to music industry professionals. The one thing you were talking about is, the resources. I'm actually working on with Jamie Thien and Ryan Smith from Shore. We're working on a standalone page on the Rockstar Roadie podcast website that's just going to be resources for roadies. Because the one thing I kind of had the biggest issue with until I got in touch with Music Health Alliance, which I didn't know existed, and when I did, it was just a blessing for me to help me on all things medical, whether it be insurance or therapy, whatever. The problem I was having, ROAD. Okay, I was looking at roadiefilm.com going, did I spell that right? Sorry, ADHD. But the one problem I had was getting through to the right people. Getting through, okay, so hey, call this number and then listen to an automated prompt for 25 minutes, and then you might have someone on there who will talk to you. I kind of got over that, and it makes the issues that you're going through worse when you can't, when you make that initiative to reach out to somebody. That's big for some people to bite that bullet and reach out and to be willing to ask a stranger for help. That's hard in its own. And then you have to jump through these fire hoops to try and get a human. That makes it worse when it takes longer and longer. So I got tired of the red tape. Thank God my friend Keith Hoagland, who was LD for an artist at the time, his wife, Colleen, worked for Music Health Alliance. He put me and her in touch. And then, finally the relief was there that I didn't have to stress anymore about, okay, I have this issue. I have this issue. Who do I speak to? Because the health industry in a whole, for things you need, like I'm a diabetic, so I have an endocrinologist. I have bad knees, so I have an orthopedist. I've got liver issues, so I've got this doctor, and then I have a therapist. That's another doctor now. So you kind of get frustrated trying to find out who you have to work with, because I didn't know what a fucking endocrinologist was. I thought it had something to do with a heart. Because my daughter has an endo, whatever. She has a heart doctor. Anyway, so you get confused, and it just compiles on top of your already issues that you're having. So we're compiling a page. Hopefully it'll evolve, and I know it'll evolve. But it's resources for roadies if they need to reach out to people and talk to people. And even if it's my damn number, if my voice is working, because I've been having some throat issues lately, I have to get a shot in my throat now twice a week just to be able to do these podcasts and talk for any lengths of time. As you can hear, my voice normally doesn't sound like, Joe Pesci, and Sebastian Bach combined. So it's just dealing, like I said, hopefully the page will evolve and it'll help some people, and in spreading the word, obviously. Listen, and I tell this every podcast, I'm not in this to make money. Would that be nice? 100%. Would I like to kick Joe Rogan's ass and be the next podcaster from hell? Sure, I would. Is it going to get there? I don't know. Nor do I care. But if I help one person, that's what matters to me. If our stories that we tell and our experiences that we tell can touch or help or heal one person, my job is done. I will get through the gates of Valhalla and I will be happy. But that takes time. So getting the word out, spreading the word, that's the whole thing. But it's all about the good stories. I think, even though we're both from Jersey, we both come from the club scene. I think there's just some great stories there that people can relate to, and they can kind of live some of those stories vicariously through us. Although there's some stories we can't legally tell and not go to jail. I'm sure the statute of limitations has not run out on some things, but but I mean, it is what it is. So for you, and here's a question, because I know you have to go here soon, but what do you want your legacy to be? I know what I want mine to be. What do you want yours to be?
Yeah, listen, that you're not the first person to ask me that, because I guess because I put this film out, I'm technically a filmmaker, even though I don't think of myself as that. I don't introduce myself as that. Listen, my legacy right now is really trying to help people through, I guess, more on the addiction side. So what this film did was kind of portray, the overall picture of kind of what happens on the road. If you buy a ticket, where your money goes to, it's not just going to the band's pocket.
Yeah. And I did like that you did that, by the way. That was pretty cool.
Well, people don't understand, you start pre-production months ahead of time when the band decides to go on tour, but there's been months and months and months of work that's been done by these guys before the band even goes to rehearsal or to pick up the guitar to get on the road.
Oh, and yeah. I'm always in prep.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that end of it, but there's also, for me, the recovery side of, I lived through it. I'm blessed that I lived through it. I beat the demons. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends and other peers that I've worked with didn't make it through addiction. And I've seen the other side, and I'm so very grateful and blessed that I'm here to do that and to pass the message on that you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And you need to be willing to say, wow, all right, I'm done, and enough's enough, and let me see what the other side is like. Let me just stop drinking for a day. Let me go 2 days. Let me see what I can do. Let me do this tour sober, type of thing. And so I'm getting a lot of interviews like this as well, coming from the addiction side, from the 12-step program side, from the mental health side, and just telling my story. Again, if there's one person that's listening that might want to talk to me later on, or if I could put them in touch with somebody on the West Coast, that's a win for me. And I'm just trying to pay it forward. That's the bottom line.
I'm proud of you for being sober, because this year marks for me 31 years.
Good for you.
And that's, I still fight the demon. It's not as bad anymore. I mean, I felt, listen, we all know, even without, for me, it was alcohol, because I won't, like I told you, I'll go to bed at night with an ibuprofen and some Pepsid AC and my heating blanket on the bus, but I don't touch any pill that has any narcotic properties. I won't do it. My doctors are literally told that the first meeting, do not ever prescribe me pain pills. I just live with pain, because to me, pain's an old friend. I got arthritis everywhere. My knees are bad. My hips bad. I just live with pain. It's a friend. I've learned to embrace it.
It's just pain.
Yeah, it's just pain. Nothing an ice pack or a heating pack can't solve. But, I did fall off the wagon a few times. I'm not going to lie. When I went through my separation from my first wife, I fell off the wagon, but my kids saved me. It was them who saved me, and then I fell off the wagon a little bit again. And then it was my dog who basically saved my life. So I understand what you're saying. And we share a common goal. Obviously, we share two commonalities. That's being sober for as long as we have. And the other common goal is to help even just one person. And I will tell you, watching your film, well fucking done, man.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I don't, trust me, I'll find those Warped Tour roadie people and smack them around a little bit, and Cameron Crowe and smack him around a little bit. But, for it to be done right, to do it justice for what we do for a living, which is, and roadies, like you said, roadies wear black for a reason. We're not supposed to be seen. Well, I felt it was time to come out of the shadows, because people need to know that we exist and we are humans, and we have lives and we have families. You know, my greatest joy, and I don't know what yours was, and you can tell me if you want, but I know you have to go. But my greatest joy, still to this day, after 40 years of touring, is watching the people at night enjoy themselves. Part of me says, I help do that.
So it's a thankless job. And all the guys I worked for, all the bands, amazing, good friends to this day.
Yep.
The biggest thrill that I think I've ever got. So I was Snake Sabo from Skid Row. I was his tech on stage right. And I was pretty new. I was pretty green. 12-string acoustic guitar in an arena, opening act. It's still cold, not a lot of warm bodies. I went through some challenges. And during, I remember Skid Row's one of the biggest hits. The 12-string would come out, and I was sweating bullets every time he hit the first chord because I was new and still trying to figure this guitar out and tune it. Anyway, when watching the band, Snake especially, having a flawless show as far as his gear goes, and knowing that I didn't screw anything up, his onstage performance thrived to those couple thousand people sitting in front of him, front row to 20th row and beyond, their energy feeding back to him, and then his energy going back. And that love relationship between musicians and the live audience, and the music that binds us and endures, just knowing that TJ had a little tiny piece of that was rewarding to me.
Yep. 100%.
And that vibe and that energy and that feeling is a feeling that nobody can describe unless you're there, unless you're one of us as a tech, as a roadie, living that moment from behind the curtain, behind the scenes, because you're not wearing a t-shirt that says I made that happen for Snake. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. So for me, that was one of the biggest rewarding things. And look, Snake did say thank you. Not every night, not every day, but he did say thank you. And I didn't need to thank you, because what he was giving to the crowd and what the crowd was giving back to him is an amazing feeling. Yeah. And I got friends doing these big arena shows, and I was fortunate enough to see Shinedown in Maryland. I was on side.
My boys.
My friend John works for them, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I got to be side of stage. And that band too, what they give to their audience and what they give back. And look, I don't work for them. I don't have any ties to them, but being on the side of the stage, feeling that brought back so many memories, and that still exists today out there in the music scene. It's just a warm and a blessing to be a part of that, Well,
it's like
the same thing.
Like, people don't understand. I love when I do get a thank you, or if the artist comes off the stage. Like, if I get a fist bump from John Bon Jovi when he comes off stage, he doesn't do that to everybody. That means fucking hell yeah. It's like when I do TSO with Al Pitrelli, every night he'll thank me. He'll shake my hand. He'll give me a fist bump. We do a hug before he goes up on the stage. That's appreciative people. But also, what I've noticed, Al Pitrelli, Long Island, old school. John Bon Jovi, Jersey, old school. It is an old school mentality to be respectful and to thank people. Sure. Do I screw up? Very rarely now. But did I? I used to a lot. Yeah. But I always got an attaboy or a thank you. And that, on top of a paycheck, is nice to be recognized. And you're right. The other part of it is to see that energy and know that you're part of it, and giving them a show where they don't have to worry about their shit breaking down. That's huge. And then and again, it's like with TSO, one of my favorite things, and I'm sorry, I know you have to go. Okay. My favorite thing is when I look out and I see families there with their little kids, and I'm getting goosebumps now. Yeah, see the looks on the little kids' faces when the pyro's going off, or when the lifts are up and the people are up there. I'll look out. I'll look through the curtain and go, man, I remember that when I was a kid. Yeah. I mean, because you're creating that memory. Yeah. And you're part of that. You know, my guy's up there, 15 feet in the air on a lift on a wireless. I help make sure that make it work. I know it's trivial to some people, but you try being a guitar tech dealing with wireless. It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
for sure.
you make that show go off, and you created that memory for that family, for that child who might someday, and this has happened. I swear to God, you ready for this? You might work for that kid one day.
Exactly.
And I did.
Yeah.
I had some kid. I didn't work for him, but I worked with him. And he's like, man, I met you when I was like 13 at an REO Speedwagon show. And here he is, our friggin' LD, like years later. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But it's cool because he goes, he said to me, you made an impression on me. You came out and gave the kids picks. That made an impression of me. I went, wow, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Then I didn't feel like such a dick.
Yeah. We went through that on the Kiss tour. We were the opening slot. So we were on at 8. We played 45 minutes, whatever. Then Ted Nugent went on and then Kiss. So we had some time after we loaded out, either wait for the union guys to do the stuff, whatever. So we would always go, and I would take Spike was Gene's guy. Fluffy was Paul's guy. I would take his picks. And there's nothing better feeling. And the generations from the Kiss tour, and this was 2000, right? This was the farewell with the original lineup. And
hell, I did 92 Revenge tour with Trickster opening.
Okay. So you saw the generations of from the 70s when they started, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and these guys are bringing their kids now. And I'm just a guy that just saw a little kid and said, here's a Gene Simmons guitar pick.
Yep.
The look on their face. And, I hope somewhere out there that kid's going, I remember you. Yeah, you're the guy. Thank you. I still have that pick type of thing. Those memories last forever.
I think as a father to someone to do that for my kid, because listen, you and I both know we live in a crazy world. We live in an expensive world. So tickets to a show aren't just tickets. They're dinner, maybe a hotel room, possibly babysitter, possibly flights, parking. It's an expensive night for a family. Let's be clear. So giving back even something as stupid to some people, but not to me, a guitar pick, putting a smile on that kid's face as a father makes me feel good.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know that parent appreciated it because I've gotten a lot of thank yous. Or here's the other thing, kids who come to a show, we keep on TSO, stage right and stage left, we keep a drawer that has earplugs in it. If we see a kid in an audience, we go out and give the kid earplugs.
That's great.
Because, and then the parents are so appreciative. Then you are showing them we are not that stigma a lot of people think we are. We're not always dickheads.
Right.
I mean, and it's just, as a parent, to me, it's the right thing to do. And a lot of people in this world, especially the new up and coming generation of roadies, they're only out for themselves. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts, and we'll kind of end it here in a minute, but the phrase that comes out of their mouth really pisses me off. And it's a couple phrases. One of them is, well, that's not my job description. And that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm not uttering that phrase, neither should you be.
Could you imagine saying that in the 90s?
You got your ass whooped.
Pick up that keyboard case. You're a guitar tech. Pick up the keyboards. Grab that bass drum. Get that up the steps. What the fuck are you talking about?
I was the guitar tech loading the backline truck, then jumping over and help the guys loading the sound truck. Why? Because we got out of there faster, and it was a good night.
Unbelievable.
Especially going into a day off. All right, listen, my brother. Thank you so much, TJ. I appreciate it. Hang on here a minute. Once the ending goes through, we'll talk for a minute. But
yeah, let's end on this. You mentioned Biohazard, and I was luckily enough to work for them in 2003. Some of their lineup changes, and again, every single one of them, a good bunch of guys, amazing band. Evan, I don't know if you know, is doing this thing called mentorship now.
No.
Besides his yoga practice, he's doing this thing in Mexico about just helping people, musicians, roadies, just lay people, everybody. Again, a guy that kind of found his way helping other people, and through hopefully through this podcast, through everything you're doing, maybe for the couple dozen people that may go watch my film now based on your review.
Oh, we'll get more up there.
I thank you for what you're doing for the mental health side. I enjoy your podcast, the 10 or 11 of them that I've seen so far.
There's more coming.
It's
Whole lot more.
It's great. There's hope for people, and I hope that your message spreads, like I want my film to help other people, and that they would pick up the phone. And there's people out here that love you, and we're all brothers in this together. And hopefully, maybe one day me and you can meet up backstage and catering over a cup of coffee.
Hell yeah!
And I want to give you a hug because I thank you for everything you're doing through your podcast.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. All right, brother. We'll end it here. Thank you so much for everything, and keep doing what you're doing. And if there's another film, I definitely want to watch it.
We'll talk soon, my friend.
Yeah, we will talk soon. Hang here. We'll talk soon. Thanks, brother.
Bye.